The massive observation deck of the Galactic Confederation headquarters offered a breathtaking view of the three moons orbiting the planet Nexus. Captain James Reed stood at attention, trying to ignore the stares from the various alien representatives. As the commanding officer of the UES Defiant, Earth's first military vessel assigned to the Confederation, he represented humanity among the stars. "Still can't believe we're here," whispered Lieutenant Alex Morgan, standing beside him. 20 years ago, we were still arguing about whether aliens existed." Reed nodded slightly. "And now we're the new kids at school, trying to prove we belong." The Confederation had existed for over 2,000 years, a peaceful alliance of 27 spacefaring species. Humans had only discovered faster-than-light travel 15 years ago, and their invitation to join the Confederation had come as a surprise to Earth's leaders. High Commander Trell, a tall blue-skinned being with 4 arms, approached the humans. His voice translator produced perfect English with a slight mechanical undertone. "Captain Reed, the Council will see you now." Reed straightened his uniform and followed Trell through the grand archway into the Council chambers. The circular room contained representatives from each member species, seated according to their tenure in the Confederation. Earth's seat was at the very edge, barely visible from the center platform. "The human representative may approach," announced the Grand Council leader, an ancient being named Verax, whose species had founded the Confederation. Reed walked forward, conscious of the various eyes, optical sensors, and sensory appendages focused on him. "Humans have been observing our conflict with the Voral Empire," Verax stated. "What are your impressions?" The Voral Empire, a militaristic coalition of 5 species, had been engaging in border skirmishes with the Confederation for centuries. Recent months had seen these conflicts escalate dangerously. "With respect," Reed began, "the Confederation's defensive strategies appear predictable. The Voral have adapted to your patterns." A murmur ran through the chamber. The bird-like Avari representative ruffled his feathers in apparent offense. "Humans have been space-capable for mere decades," the Avari said. "The Confederation has maintained peace for millennia through our established protocols." Reed stood his ground. "Our history is filled with conflict. We've learned that predictability in battle leads to defeat." "This is why we invited humans to join us," interjected Commander Trell. "Their unique perspective might prove valuable." Verax leaned forward. "The Voral have rejected our latest peace proposal. They plan to attack Helix Station within 2 cycles. This strategic outpost protects 3 of our core worlds." Reed's pulse quickened. "The Defiant stands ready to assist." "Your enthusiasm is noted," Verax replied, "but your single vessel cannot meaningfully impact a conflict of this scale." "Let us prove ourselves," Reed insisted. "The Defiant may be small, but humans have frequently overcome superior forces through innovation." The council members exchanged glances, communicating in ways humans couldn't perceive. Finally, Verax nodded slowly. "The council has decided. The UES Defiant will be assigned to the defense fleet at Helix Station. You will follow the command of Fleet Admiral Dorn and adhere strictly to Confederation battle protocols." Reed bowed respectfully. "Thank you for this opportunity." As he left the chamber, Morgan fell into step beside him. "They're setting us up to fail," Morgan muttered. "Did you see how they looked at us? Like we're children playing with weapons." Reed's expression remained neutral, but determination flashed in his eyes. "Then we'll just have to surprise them." Neither Reed nor the Confederation Council could have predicted just how surprising humans would prove to be, or how that single battle would forever change humanity's role among the stars. The command center of the UES Defiant hummed with activity as Captain Reed and Lieutenant Morgan studied the tactical displays. Morgan swiped through the holographic battle formations the Confederation had used for the past century. "It's like watching a dance," Morgan said, shaking his head. "Every move has a counter-move. Every formation has a purpose. But it's all so predictable." Reed nodded, his eyes narrowed in concentration. "The Voral know these patterns as well as the Confederation does. They'd been fighting each other for 300 years using the same rulebook. The Defiant had been docked at Hillock Station for 2 days. The massive space station served as both a military outpost and trading hub near the border of Confederation space. From the viewport, Reed could see the gathering Confederation defense fleet, nearly 50 ships of various sizes, all with sleek, elegant designs that made the boxy human vessel look primitive by comparison. "Look at this," Morgan pointed to a new simulation. The Avari ships always form a crescent pattern on the left flank. The Tellurian heavy cruisers always hold the center, and the Voral always attack the weakest point in the formation with their fastest ships. Reed watched the simulated battles play out. It's war by committee. Everyone knows their role and sticks to it. "Captain," the ship's AI announced, "Fleet Admiral Dorn requests your presence aboard the command vessel." Reed straightened his uniform. "Keep analyzing those battle patterns, Lieutenant. Find the openings the Voral might exploit, and the ones they might not expect us to use." Morgan grinned. "You're not planning to follow the Confederation playbook, are you, sir?" "Let's just say I like to keep my options open." The Confederation flagship dwarfed the Defiant. Inside its gleaming command center, officers from a dozen species coordinated the upcoming defense. At the center stood Fleet Admiral Dorn, a massive being with stone-like skin and glowing eyes. "Captain Reed," Dorn's voice rumbled, "your vessel has been assigned to the support squadron in Sector 7. You will assist with communications and perform rescue operations as needed." Reed studied the tactical display showing their assigned position, far from the expected front line of battle. "Admiral, the Defiant has significant combat capabilities. We would be more valuable in a forward position." Dorn's expression didn't change, but the temperature in the room seemed to drop. "The Confederation has defended this sector for generations, Captain. We have established protocols that maintain order in battle. Your eagerness for combat is noted but unnecessary." Reed chose his next words carefully. "Our scans show the Voral have altered their approach vectors. Based on Earth's military history, I believe they may attempt to." "Earth's military history spans, what, a few thousand years?" interrupted a tall, elegant commander with silvery skin. "The Confederation has maintained peace for 20 times that long. Through continuous warfare with the Voral," Reed pointed out. Admiral Dorn raised a hand for silence. "Captain Reed, your assignment stands. Sector 7, support operations. Should your expertise be required elsewhere, you will be notified." Reed recognized the dismissal and gave a crisp salute before departing. As he walked through the pristine corridors back to his shuttle, he tapped his communicator. "Morgan, prepare the crew for battle stations. Upload the alternate tactical scenarios we discussed to my private terminal. The ones that violate Confederation protocols, sir." Morgan's voice held a hint of excitement. "Those exact ones, Lieutenant. If the Voral do what I think they're going to do, the Confederation's perfect formations won't hold. And when that happens, I want us ready to act." As Reed's shuttle returned to the Defiant, the first long-range sensors began detecting Voral ships entering the system. They were arriving sooner than expected, and in greater numbers. The battle for Hillock Station, and humanity's reputation in the galaxy, was about to begin. The first wave of Voral ships emerged from hyperspace in a dazzling flash of light. Their dark, angular vessels, bristling with weapons, formed the distinctive wedge formation the Confederation had faced countless times before. "Exactly as expected," remarked Lieutenant Morgan, watching the tactical display aboard the Defiant. "They never changed their opening moves." Captain Reed stood with his hands clasped behind his back, eyes narrowed. "Wait for it. Something's different this time." The Confederation fleet responded with practiced precision. The elegant Avari ships curved into their traditional crescent pattern on the left flank. The powerful Tellurian cruisers formed a solid wall in the center. Smaller support vessels, including the Defiant, held position in the rear sectors. Admiral Dorn's voice echoed through the communication system. "All vessels maintain formation. Prepare for standard engagement protocol." The space between the fleets lit up as the first exchange of weapons fire began. Brilliant energy beams and pulsing projectiles crossed the void, most dissipating harmlessly against advanced shields. There, Reed pointed at the tactical display. Second wave incoming, but they're not following the expected vector. A new group of Voral ships appeared, not behind their main force as doctrine dictated, but at an oblique angle that threatened the Confederation's right flank, where their formation was thinnest. They're adapting, Morgan said, surprise evident in his voice. Reed nodded grimly. Contact Admiral Dorn. Warn him about the flanking maneuver. The communications officer tried repeatedly, but shook her head. The command channel is flooded with tactical chatter, sir. I can't get through. On the main view screen, they watched as the unexpected Voral maneuver caught the Confederation fleet unprepared. 3 Tellurian cruisers broke formation to intercept, leaving a dangerous gap in the center line. Classic feint, Reed muttered, and they fell for it. As if on cue, the main Voral force accelerated toward the newly created gap, weapons blazing at full power. The perfect Confederation formation began to crumble as ships scrambled to compensate. Incoming from Admiral Dorn, announced the communications officer. All support vessels are to maintain position and prepare for rescue operations. Reed's jaw tightened as he watched a Confederation cruiser explode under concentrated Voral fire. Maintain position. They're being slaughtered out there. The battle deteriorated rapidly. The Voral pressed their advantage, revealing yet another surprise as smaller attack craft launched from their capital ships, a tactic they had never employed before. Sir, Morgan reported, Hillock Station's outer defenses are failing. If the station falls, 3 core Confederation worlds will be exposed. Reed paced the bridge, hands clenched into fists. Around him, his human crew watched the methodical destruction of the Confederation fleet with growing unease. They're too rigid, Reed said finally. The Confederation can't adapt quickly enough because they're following protocols established centuries ago. Sir, Morgan said quietly, we have a clear shot at the Voral command vessel from our position. Against protocol, but it could turn the tide. Reed looked at the tactical display one more time. The Confederation's perfect formations had dissolved into chaos. Nearly a dozen ships had been destroyed. Hillock Station's shields were failing. He made his decision. Battle stations. All hands prepare for combat maneuvers. Reed took his captain's chair, his expression resolute. Helm, plot an intercept course for the Voral command ship. Weapons, prepare all systems. Sir, his first officer reminded him. Admiral Dorn ordered all support vessels to maintain position. Reed's eyes never left the viewport as he watched another Confederation vessel explode. Sometimes orders need to be disobeyed, Commander. The Confederation doesn't understand what humans bring to a fight. He leaned forward in his chair. Let's show them. The Defiant's engines roared to life as it broke formation and accelerated toward the heart of the battle, leaving its assigned sector far behind. The UEA's Defiant shot through the battlefield like a predator among prey, ignoring the frantic communications from Admiral Dorn's flagship. Captain Reed stood at the center of his bridge, calmly issuing orders as chaos unfolded around them. Evasive pattern Delta, Reed commanded. Morgan, deploy countermeasures. The human vessel moved in ways that confused both ally and enemy. Where Confederation ships followed predictable trajectories, the Defiant zigzagged, rolled, and made sudden course changes that seemed random but were calculated to confuse Voral targeting systems. Sir, we're being targeted by 3 Voral destroyers, reported the tactical officer. Reed nodded. Perfect. Maintain course. Morgan, execute Phase 1. Lieutenant Morgan's fingers flew across his console. Transmitting now, Captain. The Defiant had spent its days at Hillock Station doing more than just studying battle formations. Morgan had analyzed Voral communication frequencies and encryption patterns, developing a program to infiltrate their battle networks. Across the Voral fleet, Confusion spread as their communication systems began transmitting contradictory orders. Ship captains received commands to retreat while their weapons officers were told to advance. Navigation systems displayed false targets. "They're breaking formation," Morgan announced with satisfaction. "A hack is working." Reed wasted no time. "Weapons free. Target their lead destroyer's propulsion systems." The Defiant unleashed its full arsenal, concentrating fire on a single target rather than spreading attacks as Confederation doctrine prescribed. The Voral destroyer's shields buckled under the focused assault, and its engines exploded in a brilliant flash. "Engineering," Reed called. "Prepare the cargo for deployment." During their journey to Helix Station, Reed had ordered the modification of several cargo containers, fitting them with minimal propulsion systems and proximity detonators. Now, these makeshift mines were released into the battlefield. "Broadcast on all Confederation frequencies," Reed ordered. "Warn our allies to avoid the marked coordinates." Many Confederation commanders ignored the warning from the rogue human vessel, but as Voral ships encountered the disguised explosives, the devastating results became clear. The battlefield became a minefield that only the humans could safely navigate. "Sir," Morgan reported with grim satisfaction, "the Voral command ship is altering course to avoid our traps. They're moving exactly where we want them." Reed nodded. "Helm, set intercept course. Prepare for the hammer maneuver." The bridge crew exchanged knowing glances. The hammer was a tactic from Earth's naval history, appearing to retreat, then suddenly turning to ram an enemy vessel at full speed. In space combat, with shields raised, it was suicidal by Confederation standards. "All power to forward shields," Reed ordered. "Prepare to divert emergency power to engines on my mark." The Defiant shot toward the massive Voral command ship, which turned its weapons toward the approaching human vessel. "They're firing," shouted the tactical officer. "Hold course," Reed commanded, his voice steady. The Defiant shuddered as enemy fire impacted its shields. Warning lights flashed across the bridge. "Shields at 40%, reported Morgan. 30%, 20%. Now," Reed ordered. "Full power to engines." The Defiant surged forward, its remaining shield energy concentrated at its bow. It slammed into the Voral command ship's weakened shield barrier at tremendous speed, not to destroy itself, but to create a momentary shield overlap. "Fire everything," Reed shouted. With shields momentarily merged, the Defiant's weapons fired directly into the Voral ship's unprotected hull. Explosions rippled across the enemy vessel as critical systems failed. "Back us off," Reed ordered calmly. "Target their bridge and fire again." The crippled Voral command ship listed in space, its command structure destroyed. Without centralized leadership, the Voral attack force fell into disarray. Across the battlefield, Confederation commanders watched in stunned silence as a single human vessel accomplished what their entire fleet had failed to do. The Voral forces, faced with an enemy who refused to follow the rules of engagement, began a disorganized retreat. Reed allowed himself a small smile. "Broadcast to all ships. The path to Helix Station is clear. The Voral command structure is neutralized." On the Confederation flagship, Admiral Dorn stared at his tactical display in disbelief. The humans had just violated every principle of civilized warfare, and saved them all. Admiral Dorn stood motionless on the bridge of his command vessel, his stone-like features frozen in an expression his species rarely displayed: shock. Around him, officers from a dozen Confederation species watched their tactical displays with similar reactions. They rammed the enemy vessel," whispered the Avari commander, feathers quivering in distress. "No civilized species employs such tactics." The elegant Tellurian admiral shook her head. "The human vessel is still pursuing the retreating Voral ships. Why not allow them to withdraw in accordance with the disengagement protocols?" On the main view screen, the UES Defiant continued its relentless pursuit of the scattered Voral fleet. The human vessel had taken significant damage. Nearly a third of its hull was blackened from weapons fire, and several systems were venting atmosphere into space. Yet it fought on with undiminished ferocity. "Establish communication with the human captain immediately," ordered Admiral Dorn, finding his voice at last. The view screen shifted to show Captain Reed's face. Behind him, the Defiance bridge was filled with smoke. An officer was extinguishing a small fire, while others worked frantically at damaged consoles. Reed himself had a gash across his forehead that leaked blood down his face. "Admiral," Reed acknowledged, his voice steady despite the chaos surrounding him. "Captain Reed, you are ordered to cease pursuit immediately," Dorn said. "The battle is won. The Voral forces are in retreat." Reed's expression hardened. "With respect, Admiral, a retreating enemy can return. We have an opportunity to end this conflict permanently." "End the conflict?" The Admiral's glowing eyes narrowed. "What do you mean?" "The Voral command structure is in disarray. If we press our advantage now, we can force an unconditional surrender rather than another temporary ceasefire." The silence on the Confederation bridge was deafening. War, as practiced by civilized species for millennia, never aimed for absolute victory, only for advantageous negotiating positions. The concept of pursuing total defeat of an enemy was primitive. "You've done enough, Captain," Dorn said firmly. "Your vessel is severely damaged. Your crew has suffered casualties. Withdraw and return to Helix Station for repairs." On the screen, Reed seemed about to object when Lieutenant Morgan appeared at his side, whispering something in the captain's ear. Reed's expression changed subtly. "Very well, Admiral. We'll break pursuit and return to Helix Station." The connection terminated, and the tactical display showed the Defiant finally slowing its pursuit. A collective sigh of relief passed through the Confederation Command Center. "Medical teams to Docking Bay 3, ordered Dorn. "Prepare to receive human casualties." The Avari commander approached Dorn privately. "I've accessed the battle recordings," he said quietly. "You need to see this." On a smaller screen, footage from various Confederation vessels showed the Defiant's actions during the battle. Not just the ramming maneuver, but the makeshift mines, the electronic warfare, and most disturbing of all, the human crew's reactions. Where Confederation crews followed strict protocols during battle, the humans appeared to improvise constantly. Where Confederation commanders retreated when shields fell below 50%, the humans fought on with barely functioning defenses. Where Confederation vessels avoided damaging enemy life support systems, the humans specifically targeted them. "Look at their faces," the Avari commander said. "They're smiling." It was true. Despite the danger, despite the damage to their own vessel, many of the human crew displayed expressions that could only be interpreted as excitement or satisfaction. "They enjoy this," whispered a Tellurian officer in horror. "Combat for them is not a regrettable necessity. It's a challenge they relish." Admiral Dorn watched the recordings in silence, his ancient species instincts recognizing something his conscious mind was reluctant to acknowledge. Predatory behavior. "Convene the High Council immediately," he ordered. "All recordings of this battle are to be classified at the highest level." As the damaged Defiant limped back toward Helix Station, the Confederation leadership began to realize they had invited something truly dangerous into their midst, a species that approached warfare not as a diplomatic tool, but as an art form. The Grand Council chamber of the Confederation had never been convened with such urgency. Representatives from all 27 member species sat in tense silence as Admiral Dorn presented the final battle report. Behind him, holographic displays showed footage of the Defiant's actions during the battle for Helix Station. "As you can see," Dorn concluded, "the human vessel's intervention was decisive." Grand Council leader Varax leaned forward, his ancient eyes narrowed as he studied the images. "Decisive, yes. But at what cost to our principles?" Captain Reed stood at attention before the council, his uniform freshly pressed despite the bandage visible above his right eye. Beside him, Lieutenant Morgan maintained a similar posture, though his arm rested in a sling. "The statistics are undeniable," announced the Tellurian representative, her silver skin catching the light as she gestured to the data screens. 37 Voral vessels destroyed or disabled, the largest single victory in 3 centuries of conflict. "And the cost?" asked the Avari representative. 12 Confederation ships lost instead of the projected 28. Helix Station saved from certain destruction. Murmurs of approval rippled through the chamber, but Verax raised a hand for silence. "Captain Reed," he said, "explain your decision to disobey direct orders from Admiral Dorn." Reed stepped forward without hesitation. "Sir, I observed a tactical opportunity that would not have remained available had we followed standard protocols. The Voral had adapted to Confederation tactics. Victory required something they couldn't predict." "And the ramming maneuver?" asked the Avari, a note of disgust in his voice. "Such barbaric tactics have not been employed in civilized combat for millennia." "With respect," Reed replied, "it wasn't a true ramming maneuver. We created a shield overlap to bypass their defenses. The technique was calculated to minimize casualties on both sides." The council members exchanged glances. The concept of developing tactics to minimize enemy casualties was not something they had anticipated from humans. A new figure entered the chamber. Professor Tella, the Confederation's leading genopsychologist. The slender, gray-skinned being carried a data tablet and moved to the center of the room. "The council requested my analysis of human combat psychology," she began. "I have studied the neural patterns and biochemical responses of the Defiance crew during battle." The chamber grew quiet as Tella displayed her findings. Humans experience what they call stress responses during combat: increased heart rate, adrenaline production, and heightened sensory awareness. But unlike most species who find these responses debilitating, humans appear to function optimally under such conditions. Tella changed the display to show comparative brain scans. More concerning is their cognitive flexibility during crisis, where Confederation species typically narrow their focus and rely on established protocols when threatened. Humans demonstrate increased creativity and problem-solving abilities. "Are you suggesting," Verax asked slowly, "that humans are designed for warfare?" "Not designed," Tella corrected. "Evolved. Their planetary history included millennia of intraspecies conflict. Their bodies and minds adapted accordingly." Reed and Morgan remained expressionless, though a careful observer might have noticed a slight tension in their posture. "There is more," Admiral Dorn added. "We have received a communication from the Voral High Command. After analyzing the battle footage, they have requested immediate peace negotiations." Stunned silence filled the chamber. 3 centuries of conflict, whispered the Avari representative, ended by a single battle with humans. "Not ended," corrected Dorn. But the Voral message specifically cited grave concerns about human combat methodologies as their reason for seeking dialogue. Verax studied Reed and Morgan for a long moment before addressing the council. "We face an unprecedented situation. The humans have proven themselves both invaluable allies and potentially concerning ones. I propose we adjourn to private chambers to discuss our response." As Reed and Morgan were escorted from the chamber, they exchanged a brief glance that contained both pride and uncertainty. They had saved countless Confederation lives and potentially ended a centuries-long conflict. Why, then, did the council seem more afraid of them than grateful? Captain Reed stood at rigid attention as Grand Council Leader Verax read the official proclamation. The chamber was filled to capacity. Representatives from all Confederation species had assembled to witness this historic moment. Behind Reed, the entire surviving crew of the Defiant formed neat rows, their expressions carefully neutral. By unanimous decision of the Galactic Confederation High Council, Verax announced, his voice echoing through the vast hall, "We hereby establish a new classification for the species known as humans." A massive holographic display activated above the assembly, showing footage from the battle at Helix Station. The images transitioned between the Defiant's unconventional tactics, the crew's determined faces during combat, and the devastating results of their intervention. Humanity has demonstrated capabilities that exceed our established frameworks for military engagement, continued Verax. Their unique evolutionary history has produced a species with traits we find both remarkable and deeply concerning. Reed felt Lieutenant Morgan shift slightly beside him. They had spent the past 3 days undergoing extensive interviews, psychological evaluations, and even medical examinations as the Confederation attempted to understand human combat psychology. Therefore, effective immediately, all human military vessels and personnel are classified as non-conventional assets, prohibited from direct combat operations within Confederation space. A murmur ran through the assembly. Reed maintained his composure, though his jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Instead, Verax continued, raising his voice over the whispers. Humanity will serve the Confederation in diplomatic, peacekeeping, and strategic advisory roles. Your unique perspectives will be valued in planning and negotiation, while your methods remain in reserve. The Grand Leader descended from his platform, approaching Reed directly. In his hands, he carried an ornate box. Captain James Reed, the Confederation recognizes your actions saved Hillock Station and potentially billions of lives. For this service, you and your crew are awarded the Star of Nexus, our highest honor. Verax opened the box, revealing a crystalline medallion that shimmered with internal light. He placed it around Reed's neck, then stepped back to address the entire human contingent. You fought to protect others, not for conquest or glory. This distinction has not escaped our notice. Ambassador Chen, Earth's diplomatic representative, stepped forward. The Council's decision is unexpected. Humanity joined the Confederation as full partners, and you remain so, Verax assured her. In recognition of humanity's unique contribution, the Council has approved an unprecedented technology and knowledge exchange. The display changed to show schematics for advanced medical equipment, energy systems, and agricultural methods far beyond current Earth capabilities. Additionally, Verax continued, the Voral Empire has agreed to comprehensive peace negotiations, the first substantive talks in 3 centuries. They have one condition. Human representatives must be present at the negotiations. Reed finally broke his silence. They fear us. Verax met his gaze directly. Yes, Captain. As do we, to some degree. But fear can lead to respect, and respect to peace. The Voral watched a single human vessel change the course of a battle their strategists had deemed unwinnable. They have no desire to face a fleet of such vessels. Ambassador Chen nodded slowly, beginning to understand. So humanity becomes the deterrent that makes war too costly for anyone to contemplate. Precisely, Verax confirmed. Throughout our history, the Confederation has sought peaceful solutions through strength. You have provided strength beyond anything we anticipated. Later, as the Defiance crew gathered in their ship's mess hall, the mood was mixed. Some felt insulted by their exclusion from combat operations, while others saw the strategic wisdom in the Council's decision. Reed set his Star of Nexus on a table and addressed his people. They've labeled us too dangerous for war. And maybe they're right. So what happens now, Captain? Asked Morgan. Reed looked around at his crew, the first humans to fight among the stars, and perhaps the last. Now, he said with a small smile, we do something far more difficult than winning battles. We help build a peace that lasts. Across the galaxy, news spread of the strange newcomers to the Confederation, the species whose approach to warfare was so unnerving that after a single battle, they had been deemed too dangerous to fight alongside or against. Within a year, the term human solution entered the diplomatic language of a dozen worlds, referring to a problem solved through unexpected means. And throughout the stars, potential enemies of the Confederation looked toward Earth with a newfound wariness, wondering what other surprises humans might have in store.